Are you a perfectionist at your job?
Do you feel like being a perfectionist ever holds you back?
Is your perfectionism causing you anxiety and burnout?
Aren't successful people all perfectionists in some way?
We're bringing on Dr. Thomas Curran to answer all of these questions related to perfectionism.
We're two perfectionists ourselves, so naturally we had to bring in an expert.
You're going to love this episode.
Demoted. What's up, Motorheads? Welcome to another edition of Demoted. It's Tuesday because that's when we release episodes. Hope everyone had a happy Monday. Nat, what are we doing today?
We're bringing on Dr. Thomas Curran. He's a speaker and associate professor of psychology at the London School of Economics, so he is way smarter than both Ross and I, thank God.
Yes, that's not that that's saying much, but he has garnered worldwide acclaim for his research into the rising tide of perfectionism and its implications on well-being and productivity.
Ross and I talk a lot about burnout and this desire to achieve and do great things in your career and in your personal life and always really be perfect. And I think this episode we dive into, maybe that's not the best approach to your job.
And no doubt in my mind, a lot of Motorheads out there are also perfectionists. And naturally, that sort of competitive, high expectations of oneself can lead to, well, dare I say, unhappiness, and our favorite buzzword on the pod, burnout.
He argues for a cultural and personal shift towards embracing imperfection and showing that good enough can lead to more meaningful and balanced lives. Oh my God, the thought of being good enough, why does that pain me to say?
Good enough. Yeah, it just kind of hurts. Yeah, it's like when you would say, oh, well, it's content, you know. It's not good, but
well,
it's content.
You posted something, so congrats.
Yeah, well done. You pressed the share button. Took a lot of courage. All right, with that, let's bring out the doctor himself, Dr. Thomas Curran. Welcome to the pod.
Thomas, welcome to the pod.
What a joy to be here.
And I want to say, just to start this off, Ross and I weren't able to join our kind of kickoff call, but my team, Annie and Riley, joined, and they left the conference room after that call and came up to Ross and I and were like, guys are going to love him. You're going to love this episode. He's incredible. So we just, since that moment, have been so excited for today.
High hopes, high expectations. So please deliver, I guess is what we're trying to say. And we know you will, because they were like, we need this more than anyone. And we're like,
yes,
perfect. That means Natalie and I also need this.
Okay, so absolutely no pressure from the get-go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
No pressure.
Well, you've got the British accent, which makes you inherently smarter than all of us anyway. So you could say anything you want and we're going to be eating it up.
Okay, great.
It's
that makes
simple.
me feel a lot better. Okay.
You know that.
Yes.
You already know that, though.
Exactly.
I want to get into a little bit of your book, but we'll even go before that. So your book, The Perfection Trap, you know, before researching and writing it, what were you doing in your career and how did you become aware of your own perfectionism getting in the way? Because perfectionism, that is the theme for all the Motorheads out there. That is going to be the theme of today's episode.
I have a bit of an unconventional backstory because I didn't necessarily think when I was a teenager I was going to go to university. My dad's a builder in the trade, so that was kind of where my head was at when I was a teenager. But in the UK, we got grants, like we got given money to go to university, which I know sounds crazy to American ears, but we got like money to go to university. So, of course, I'm going to take it. 3 years of moping around, playing a bit of sport, sounds like a lot of fun. And partway through the process, I kind of realized I was actually pretty good. I could think quite clearly and make arguments reasonably well. And so I impressed a professor who gave me an opportunity to do a PhD. And part of that PhD was based on perfectionism and achievement or motivation. And that's where it all started, really. The problem was that just like a good perfectionist, I was studying myself, or I ended up finding out I was studying myself, trying to perfect the art of doing perfectionism research. And that took a big toll on my mental health, pushed myself way too hard. But that was really good because it allowed me to step back a little bit and think about the bigger questions. Like, is this something that I deal with alone, or is this something that loads of people deal with out there in the wider world? And that question never really left me. It was there in the background for a long time, and then just decided to study it and did a big study showing perfectionism is increasing over time, that I'm not alone, that those of people also struggle with this characteristic. And yeah, that's where the career kind of kicked off, and I was doing TED Talks and all sorts, writing books and all sorts of things. So yeah, that's pretty much the backstory. But research is definitely me search when it comes to perfectionism.
I love that. You have two perfectionists on the line with you today. So this is kind of like a therapy session for Ross and I, maybe. We're excited to learn more about that. I would love to, before we get into the book and the research and all that, how do you define perfectionism? Can we start there?
Yeah, perfectionism is... It's not what most people expect me to say when I answer this question. They think it's just high standards, right? And that's part of it. Yeah, perfectionists have really, really high standards, but that's only one element. And there are so many different facets of perfectionism. In particular, socially prescribed perfectionism that comes from the outside world too. So not only do we feel like we have to be perfect, so this is very self-driven, self-oriented perfectionism, but we also feel like other people expect us to be perfect all the time, and they're waiting and watching, and when we've made a mistake or slipped up, they're going to let us know. But we also can, in certain instances, also project perfectionism outwards onto others. So this is called other-oriented perfectionism. So where essentially I expect you to be perfect, and I'm going to let you know if you put in a substandard performance. So perfectionism is more than just high standards. It is those things, but it comes with a lot of concern, insecurity, and baggage, and in order to understand perfectionism, you have to understand its entirety.
Is there a connection to imposter syndrome? I don't know. We all expect ourselves to be something so great. And I think Natalie's down at Stanford Business School right now, where her fiance is about to graduate. I attended there 5 years ago, but one of the biggest themes of it was imposter syndrome. And you're there at this place for, people are like, oh, you must be so smart. You must be so great. But everybody's walking around like, I don't deserve to be here. I have no idea why I'm here, how I'm here. So I'm curious if there is some sort of link to this perfectionism with imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. Like perfectionism is really putting on a mask of hyper functionality, hyper competence, work ethic. And of course, whenever you put on a mask, you know deep down that you're not that person. And so that is, of course, going to create so much imposterism. And I see that in my students all the time. What you described there is not unusual. I think it's a Duke, they call it duck syndrome. So, you're all the students are serenely floating along the surface, but underneath they're paddling frantically, right? And this is essentially it. And I see this in because they come and see me for help and support all the time when it comes to pressure. Most of it self-imposed, but some of it coming from family and all the rest of it, but most of it self-imposed. And a lot of it is rooted in perfectionism, and a lot of it is rooted in the sense that I don't deserve to be here, I don't belong here. And so that creates an overcompensation. Okay, well, if I don't belong here, then I've got to step my game up, right? I've got to prove to everyone and all around me that I am good enough, even though I don't feel that I am. So yeah, it's all all of the perfectionism that both contributes to imposterism and comes from imposterism is really just compensation for us feeling like we're not enough.
So is that a type of perfectionism?
Yeah. What are the types of perfectionism?
I would say it's a corollary of perfectionism. It comes with perfectionism, but perfectionism is a lot of other things as well. I suppose the best way to think about perfectionism, the best metaphor, I suppose, is like, so you are both the warden and the prisoner in your own prison, right? Like you are the person who's dishing out the demands, it's telling you what to do all the time, making sure that you're on time, you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place. And of course, like that's really hard. It creates a lot of self-criticism. It creates a lot of imposterism. It creates a lot of psychological difficulties. And also at the same time, as I mentioned, we also feel these outside forces as well. Other people are also sharing in this criticism and sharing in this idea that we're not good enough, and they're going to see it, they're going to find out. So we have to not just prove to ourselves that we're perfect, that we're good enough, but we also have to prove to other people too that we're good enough. And as I mentioned, some of the times that can also be turned outwards too. So if I'm expecting myself to be perfect and I'm engaging in a lot of self-criticism, it's only fair that you're going to get a lot of criticism too if you put in a substandard performance, right? It's what Freud would call projection. So also at the same time, we're throwing these standards outwards, right? And so those three main types of perfectionism, yes, they can include imposterism, and imposterism is very strongly correlated with perfectionism, but there are so many other neuroses, worries that come with perfectionism that are more than just feeling like we're an imposter. It's basically an entire worldview that's just predicated on this belief that we're not perfect enough and we have to prove to everyone that we're perfect all the time.
So I want to go to like the research in your book. And so were you just like, okay, these are all type A alphas, successful in their career. Let's go to the nearest investment bank and just pull them all out and just be like, you're all perfectionists. Let me study you. How did the research go about? How do our listeners like look in the mirror and say, I'm this type of perfectionist, or I'm not a perfectionist at all, actually? How can we tell us a little bit more about the research?
Yeah, we do a lot of work in corporate organizations, do a lot of work in all sorts of areas, but mainly in the high achievement domains where essentially you do see a lot of perfectionism. And you see a lot of perfectionism because we live in a world which essentially rewards that kind of work, I suppose, that kind of self-sacrifice. And so those are almost like the survivors who reach those and they reach the top. And the thing is, if you talk to them, they will cite their perfectionism as being part of their journey, but they will also tell you that there was massive amounts of emotional and cognitive baggage that essentially dogged them along that journey. And so it's not as straightforward as just to say, I reached the top because of my perfectionism. If you reach the top because of hard work or conscientiousness or perseverance, then that's very different from reaching the top because of perfectionism. And it's those perfectionists who will tell you all about those neuroses and anxieties, and the people who are not very perfectionistic who won't necessarily hold those things as important in their day-to-day psychology. So when we talk about perfectionism and high achievement, we've got to focus on both the performance and the insecurities.
Is it this idea of never being satisfied? I mean, it also sounds like a lot of like coaching. Our coaches are always like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And you're trying to be as perfect or, I guess, great as possible. What's the difference between sort of exploring greatness and trying to be perfect? Like, because I would argue for me, it is a driver. I would say I want to be perfect and I try to be perfect, and knowing that is impossible is still a positive driver for me. Or maybe I'm framing it wrong. I mean, what would you say to me about that? I don't know. I mean, does it eat me up? Are there neuroses? Are there, drawbacks? Natalie sees them all the time from me. But I don't know if I would change it necessarily, or maybe there's a better way to reframe it.
Yeah, I get this question a lot. It's, I think what you're asking is, do you need a little bit of perfectionism to get ahead, right? Is this just a necessary evil, right? Like, we know it creates all of this difficulty, all of this psychological and emotional baggage, but ultimately, do we need it to get ahead? There's some truth in that. So perfectionism has a very small relationship with performance in certain contexts, particularly in the educational context. And that's really interesting because high level of diligence or perseverance and a single-minded focus on a task like revision, for example, will probably get you quite a distance in an exam. But when it comes to work, what's really interesting when you look at the data is that there is no relationship between perfectionism and performance. And that is super, super curious, because you would expect perfectionists to do far better. And when you look at a group of high performers, there will invariably be perfectionists among them. But when you actually break the psychology of perfectionism down, that relationship, that non-existent relationship, starts to make sense, because perfectionists do something really curious. They both work too hard and not hard enough all at the same time. You might think, well, how on earth can you work too hard and not hard enough all at the same time? Well, it's quite straightforward. Perfectionists put in a lot of effort, they do, but it's effort that comes at the expense of things that they need to feel rejuvenated, vitalized at work. Things like good sleep, exercise, diet, and all the rest of it. So they reach a point of diminishing the returns to their effort, and then they go beyond that, right, into the zone of burnout. Big relationship with perfectionism and burnout. But there's another reason why perfectionism or perfectionists find it difficult to perform. So that's the, working too much. And that's that they don't work hard enough. And the reason why they don't work hard enough is because they will start to recoil from situations where they think they might fail, because there's such an averse fear of failure, fear of making mistakes, of revealing an imperfection to other people, that if there's a high chance of that occurring, they will take themselves away from the situation. And we've done loads of research showing exactly this phenomenon. So when you give people a goal, let's say you say this is a puzzle task, you've got to complete in a certain amount of time, or maybe this is an exercise task, you've got to complete a certain amount of distance in a certain amount of time, whatever it is, you give them a goal and you say you should comfortably meet it, go ahead and try to meet it. You'll find the people who come into our lab and do these tasks will try really, really hard on the first occasion to meet that goal. But when you tell them after they finish that, no matter how well they did, you failed, right? You didn't meet the goal that we set. Something really curious happens when you ask them to do it again, right? It's okay, do it again. The people who are not very high in perfectionism, on that second attempt, their effort doesn't really change. In fact, it actually increases a little bit. But the perfectionistic people do something super, super interesting. Their effort on that second attempt falls off a cliff. Like, they just stop trying, because in their minds, you can't fail at something you don't try it. Right? So as soon as the going gets tough, perfectionists start to get going, and that's the not working hard enough part of this equation, right? So they work too hard, but simultaneously not hard enough. And a lot of that avoidance, withdrawal, looks like procrastination. There's a very strong relationship between perfectionism and procrastination, for example. And it's not a passive procrastination, it's very active procrastination. It's a distraction, right? We're going on social media or watching Netflix or whatever it might be. It exhausts us in the process of not doing anything, right? So that feeds back into the burnout. So when I get asked, is perfectionism needed for performance? The short answer to all of that is no. The longer answer is because they work both too hard and not hard enough.
That's really interesting. Do you find, is there any correlation between being curious and being willing to fail and learning new things and trying new things and kind of that, like, I would call it a type B personality that's just totally fine with failing and learning and growing, and then perfectionists are like, I only need to do this one thing that I'm really good at, and I don't want to learn because it's too scary. And I found myself doing that in consulting a lot, where I was really good at making slide decks. And I was like, that's all I want to do. And then they'd say, can you take a look at the spreadsheet? And I would shut down. No, I can't look at Excel. I don't have that skill. I'm not good at that. Go to the other guy. I'm horrible at that. And that was such a fear. And I do think it stunted me in actually learning and growing and getting a little uncomfortable. Do you find any of that in your research?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfectionists will always prioritize stuff that they know there's a reasonable chance of having a positive outcome. And that means that any competencies that they've built, whether it be at university or in the workplace, are those that they'll always gravitate back to. So when they're placed in a situation where they're asked to do something new or different or scary, it's really, really hard. One, because they have a preset formula that they know how to get success in one area, and now they're being asked to do something where there's got no schema, like no template, right? So they've got to start from scratch. That's really hard to do. So the worry and the panic behind it is like, oh my goodness, where do we even start? How this is going to be terrible. They start to catastrophize. These ruminative thoughts start to enter their heads, and that's where the procrastination starts, right? And I think ultimately those people who are able to get new tasks or be given new tasks and able to just roll with it, to bounce with it, and they do exist, are going to be way more successful in the workplace, because essentially they just get going with it, right? They just get started, they throw themselves into it, and they're going to fail, but that's okay. They keep iterating, and none of this has a massive impact on their self-esteem or the way they view themselves in relation to others. And so that's a much healthier way to work. So if you do get a new task or if somebody gives you something that you weren't expecting, embrace it. Just throw yourself into it. That's going to be hard at first, but it's a way more, it's a much more successful strategy than to worry and to panic and avoid and withdraw.
Are there creative perfectionists?
Good question. I've never had this question before. That's a really good question. Yes. So, there will be examples of people that are completely dedicated to their art form. But one of the things you'll notice, absolutely, naturally. But one of the things you'll notice is that the things that they've produced, they will not think that they are art forms, right? So the perfectionists will produce incredible things, objectively incredible things. But if you ask them for their testimony on whether they think it's objectively incredible, they will tell you, no, it can always be better. The sculpt that I could have chiseled a little bit here, or I could have crafted this sentence a little bit better here. And so I think the answer to this question is yes, there will be amazing creative people at Perfectionist, but the toil of getting to that point would have been substantial.
That makes a lot of sense.
I love toiling.
I pointed at the screen because I was like, Ross, that's you. You're never happy.
That's
You'll
true.
produce something amazing and hate it. Let's get into kind of the social media side, just because Ross and I are here and we do this. And then we can talk about kind of how to overcome this, maybe once we look in the mirror and start crying and realize how much work we have. Does social media perpetuate this need to be perfect? We can tell you from our POV, but would love to hear from the average scroller who's seeing all this stuff. I'm entering into my wedding season and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much I need to do. It needs to be perfect. We need flowers hanging from the ceiling. I'm already terrified because
God.
there's so much on TikTok of wedding content. And I'm like, this is insane. Can you tell us a little bit about the correlation there between social media and perfectionism?
Just like we were saying, there's always another thing that we could be doing. And social media is here to tell us what that thing is. I think it's complicated. I don't like the reductivist argument that social media is de facto a bad thing. I think there's many positive things that go on in social media that should be celebrated. You know, the creativity of young people on social media is something to just marvel at. The problem comes, I think, when we get too far down the algorithm and start to take social media at face value, that all of the images that are thrown at us that in some way reflect people's real lived experiences, and often they're not. They're just curated experiences. And if we could recognize that, we could have a much healthier relationship with social media. But of course, it's hard to do that, right? When you it's easy to say, hard to do. And so I do think perfectionism is perpetuated within social media. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think social media has done a lot of really good things and unlocked a lot of creativity. So for me, it's a bit more nuanced than that. But I am interested in your experiences because I mentioned the algorithm. You guys are creators. I mean, the algorithm punishes rest. So how does it feel to be on that side of it when you're kind of competing with, not competing is the wrong word, but you're continually having to pump out really good content. Otherwise, you're just going to get punished by the algorithm. So almost you're working for the algorithm in some ways. Is that how it feels, or what's your experiences with it?
I think there's a constant tension between making what you want to make or making what you think the algorithm wants you to make. When we switched to an interest-based algorithm, for those out there who are unclear what or don't know what that is, basically it's the idea that you'll get fed content that you don't follow. Right? Like the algorithm decides what content you get to see, and it doesn't matter whether or not you follow them. In the old days, when you just got content from the people you chose to follow, personally as a creator, I was like, those people opted in. They like my humor. They like my videos, whatever. I'll make whatever I want to make because we're on the same plane of humor or whatever it may be. Nowadays, I could post something that I think is funny for myself and that I think my following would like, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to see it. And so then I may say, oh, shoot, why would I spend so much time on that when I could do what I'm seeing is performing via the algorithm, what I'm getting fed, the random people I don't follow, but I keep seeing the same themes, same types of videos over and over again. Clearly, those are performing and being pushed. So then I'll go make those, but I'll hate myself for doing it. So it is a battle, and I struggle a lot with it, making the content I want to make versus making the content I think the algorithm wants me to make. And I wish it weren't so. So I definitely struggle with it, but I also, unlike Natalie, I look at individual post performance. I certainly get a little more tied up in the performance of an individual post versus just like, fuck it, it's content, put it out there. People all move on with their lives. No one hates me because I posted something that bombed by my metrics versus, another post that I've done. It doesn't matter. People don't care the way I care. So I get caught up in that. And that's me. I think Natalie handles things a lot differently though.
That's so true. And if you view influencers and content creators as like a company and we're all performing the same job and we're making videos and doing this, there's a lot of competition, whether we say it or not. I think you see a lot of positivity in the comments and you support your creators. And I love so many creators, but there's this tension that I think exists in a lot of corporate spaces too, where there's only a certain amount of views and viewers of these videos. It's going to go to one place or the other. And maybe even between Ross and I, are you watching a corporate bro video or a corporate Natalie video? And it creates this tension and this need to be perfect and make content that everyone wants to view all the time, which is such an unrealistic standard. I think I can't always be funny. I can't always make incredible things. And so I completely agree. And I think it does tie back to that perfectionist mentality.
Yeah, that's a curious thing for me, not being a content creator or influencer. I don't know how you have time to do it, frankly, because it must be the demand to continually create. It's interesting what you said, Ross, there about having to compromise sometimes on what I would like to create just to fulfill the need for some content to be out there. That is definitely an extremely perfectionistic way of thinking, of just needing to continually pump stuff. And I don't know, but that's not your fault, right? Like, that's just the way the algorithm works. If the algorithm worked differently, then perhaps we would have more creativity, but our attention needs to be captured, right? We need to be continually spending and online in order for the apps to remain profitable. So I suppose that's just the way it's going to be for the foreseeable.
Yeah, part of it too is there is a little bit more of a malicious intent behind what these social media platforms are trying to do. They're trying to create little dopamine hits, and there's this phenomenon that this paper that I read, it's called like the Inouye effect. And basically the idea is that we keep searching for these dopamine hits, but as we scroll, we're constantly also draining the dopamine, and the dopamine never quite gives you enough to get over the hump to feel satisfied. This is why we keep scrolling. So you're slowly draining, but you might get something that gives you a little bit of that hit, but you're still just draining, and you kind of go up and you keep going down, you up a little bit and back down more. And I definitely feel that, like, I don't consume a lot of social media because I feel that very heavily. And so the algorithm, though, is just trying to keep people scrolling, right? It's like you could post the exact same video at a different time, at a different period of the year, and it's going to perform well. And what they're trying to do is to have you chase that high. Like, it very much ebbs and flows, just like our creativity does. Like, Natalie, I'm sure you've been there too. It's like we're on heaters. Like, the last 10 videos are just crushing. Like, I'm on my shit. You take a week off, whatever, something happens, shifts, other things in your life. You're putting out content that you thought was good. Now all of a sudden you're in a lull and things aren't performing as well. So then you're like, fuck. How do I get back to that when I was performing well again? So you get addicted. And it's sort of just like you're chasing that dopamine hit that can honestly be incredibly arbitrary, because the same video can bomb and the exact same video can go viral and you have no idea why.
Yeah,
so it's a little bit more malicious what these companies are trying to do to people.
Oh, for sure.
We're very much part of it. I mean, we're very much
I'm treading carefully because I realize this is also, I need social media to promote this particular podcast so that my profile also rises. So
it's like a necessary evil in a lot of ways, but
we're all on the same game. But it's crazy. Social media is crazy. And going back to your original question, I think there's no doubt it does perpetuate, but I also don't want to get too down the rabbit hole of it just being a totally negative experience. I think I think you guys are actually examples. I don't have social media, but my partner keeps sharing with me the short videos that you'll do of various sideways looks at corporate culture or whatever it might be, and it's really funny. So there is the content there is good, it's valuable. It's just the way, I suppose, like you're saying, creators are forced to continue to create that creates a lot of pressure and stress.
Let's bring it back to kind of the how to deal with perfectionism. And if someone's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, wow, I definitely have this issue. I can't do things that challenge me or make me feel uncomfortable. I constantly feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm burnt out. Maybe all these kind of symptoms of perfectionism that you're talking about. What are some strategies for overcoming this perfectionism on an individual level?
I think the biggest one is to almost completely take a different approach to the way that we see what the value of work and what work means. I call it the idea of sub-optimizing. You can't possibly optimize everything. It's not possible. Your perfectionism will tell you to, right? I want to optimize my work, my parenting, the leisure that I do, my cooking, whatever it might be. But you can't possibly optimize everything. So sometimes it's important just to have a little bit of a life audit. What is it that I need to work on, and what can be mediocre, right? Like what in my life can be, most things in your life could be gloriously mediocre, but you can be like really kick-ass at one thing. And I think for perfectionists, they feel like they have to be everything to everybody. And so that for me is like the biggest starting point. Allow yourself to be suboptimal in most things in your life. And that gives you the space and the energy to concentrate on being excellent in one or two areas of your life. And that might mean maybe you list the things in your life that you do and you pick two that are important to you and focus there, right? And then allow yourself to just let the other things be, just let yourself suck at the other things and enjoy that and embrace that. Because that prioritization means you can do a lot more deep work. Which is much more, means you're much more effective. I also think that this idea of microdosing, so something I say to when I do corporate talks a lot is, or recommend is microdosing, because microdosing discomfort into your daily life. Perfectionists they find it really difficult to go through almost on a daily basis without fishing for reassurance or trying to get approval or validation from people in the workplace. So they might do little subtle things like when they write emails, they'll say, I hope it's okay, or would you mind checking this, or little just qualifying statements that require the other person to give them some validation. I think even tomorrow, just stop doing that, right? Like just cut that out of your daily communication on your emails or even in face-to-face, and just be a bit more assertive. So engage in sort of healthy assertiveness, have faith in your abilities to have done the task well and hand them over, and trying to fish for that reassurance all the time. And that's going to be really difficult for perfectionists because they want to know they're okay. But the more comfortable you can get in that discomfort of not knowing, like that discomfort of the unknown, the more comfortable you actually become in your own skin with your own abilities, and the less perfectionism has power over you. So I think that's the second thing I recommend. The other thing I recommend is prioritization. Perfectionists will try to do everything to the maximum, which means they burn out, right? This is the doing too much side of the equation. But the interesting thing about that is that it needs to be controllable, right? So what they tend to do is focus all of their eggs on low priority tasks, things that don't really require a great deal of diligence, but they'll give it them anyway. So non-urgent emails, meeting invites, booking rooms, whatever it might be, stuff that really just needs to get done. But they'll spend a lot of time doing things in those domains well, and less time in things that require high level diligence, important projects, presentations that require a bit of lateral thinking and creativity, right? So there's this misallocation of resources that they don't focus on the stuff they should focus on, and they focus too much on stuff they shouldn't. So prioritizing is also a really important thing for people to do. They could do it in their own lives, they could do it with their boss, whatever it might be, but put your tasks into buckets. What's high priority? Needs high level diligence, needs to be done to a very high level. What's moderate priority, right? It needs to be done as good enough, right? But it doesn't need to be high level diligence. And then what's low priority? What just needs to get done, right? Put those tasks into buckets and then give yourself permission to spend the appropriate amount of time on each of them. And that's a much more efficient way to work than the way that perfectionists work. So I think those are the big three that I would recommend.
His takeaway I was just going to say is just, I should microdose.
I was going to double click into microdosing as well, but in a different way. Ross is great at microdosing.
There's that option as well. There is that.
That's a separate conversation.
Good at microdosing.
Is there a gendered element to this? I think I see so many videos and commentaries of people saying like, me as a woman writing an email versus my male counterpart. And it's like, if at all possible, if you could maybe do this, please, I'm so sorry for existing, versus edit this now. And like, that's such a real thing that I'll make videos joking about this too. And it's a broader woman problem. And it's sad. It's a sad reality that we feel like we have to qualify and overqualify constantly. But is there any research you've done on the gendered elements of perfectionism? I'm just curious.
I think that's absolutely right. It's also a generational thing as well. Our older generations don't tend to have, and we know this from the data as well, don't tend to have the same hang-ups. So they tend to be just more assertive by default, and that's good and bad. I think the data, if you want the boring data answer, the data is really interesting on the gender differences because you don't tend to see too many differences at the mean level. So average levels of perfectionism across males and females tend to be equivalent. But what there is no doubt is that the context into which that perfectionism exists is very different for males and females. And there is certainly pressures on girls and women in the modern world, not just in the workplace, but social media, schooling, and all the rest of it, that certainly would tap into perfectionism, that would reveal perfectionism in a greater degree than perhaps it would for men. That's just a theory, as a hypothesis. I don't know that to be the case, but from anecdotal evidence and data and exactly the experiences you're talking about, I would suggest that there may be a gendered part to perfectionism.
Makes sense.
Let's shift into our rapid fire section. So these are just kind of your quick, off the top of your head, 1-2 sentence answers here. How many times should we reread and rewrite an email before sending it?
It kind of depends. Like if it's going to a client or something external, then obviously give it a reread. But if it's something internal and non-urgent, just send it.
God, it's so hard for me. I have to reread constantly. What if everything I do is just perfect and I don't even have to try and I was born this way?
Well, I mean, great. You can, you get to be whoever you want to be. Nothing's going to hold you back.
Our producer wrote that question. I'm so imperfect in so many ways. Please don't.
Not to me. Not to me, you're not.
Not to me.
You're perfect to me. What is your issue with the growth mindset? Why do you hate it so much?
Goodness.
What did it do to you?
I don't hate the growth mindset. Okay, oh my goodness me. Is this a quick fire? I can't answer this quickly. The growth mindset
well, then talk fast, my man.
Well, the growth mindset is no problem with the growth mindset in principle, but the original conception of the growth mindset was in limited situations, educational situations, sports situations, and it was actually goals. It was around what they call task goals. So, do you focus on your goal self-improvement? Do you focus on trophies and winning things and all the rest of it? Right. This is where it started, and Carol Dweck then kind of added the growth mindset part to the equation, and then suddenly it just completely started to morph into a totalizing worldview where the only imperative now is to grow, and you have to grow at all times and all places and be everything to everybody. And I think it's taken us so far away from the original conception of growth into a totalizing worldview, a mindset industrial complex, if you will, that has created so much exhaustion, so much worry that we must engage on the next growth project, so much anxiety about not doing enough, and so much perfectionism. So I'm not like anti-growth, a growth as a goal to engage in on discrete and specific tasks. I think it's a very good way to approach our work and life. But when it becomes the only thing that we focus on, then that's when it creates a lot of exhaustion, because there's no contentment in growth, right? Like growth doesn't thrive in abundance; it thrives under scarcity, and ultimately we can't always and forever live our lives under scarcity.
That makes sense. That fired you up. Wow. That was exciting to see.
Well, we got to put you in the ring with Carol Dweck.
Tell him, Thomas.
Let you guys just have a throwdown.
It's funny because I think we'd agree on quite a lot. And she's actually written about this, taking a life of itself and that not necessarily pulling it away from the original conception. So I think we'd be in total agreement. We'd be having a great time. But yeah, that's my critique, I suppose, of the growth mindset.
Are people who are the antithesis of perfection happier?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you're able to maintain high standards, be conscientious, diligent, and avoid the baggage, right? Like you don't have the insecurities that comes with perfectionism, then you're going to be way happier. Your self-esteem is going to be higher. You're going to go through life not worrying too much about mistakes or setbacks, and you'll have a lot more joy. So, absolutely.
I think I'll just be miserable. What is the opposite of a perfectionist? What do we call those people?
Contented, happy-go-lucky, whatever you want to call it. Sub-optimizers, yeah. These are people that just exude serenity, And there's not many of them in the modern world, actually. But when you come across them, You're like, wow, how on earth do you maintain so serene when there's everything and all around seems to be collapsing? It's a wonderful mindset to have. I unfortunately don't have it, but if you have any tips on how to find that joy and contentment without perfection, I'd love to hear it.
How should we reframe failure as an outcome?
I think most of the time you're going to fail way more than you're going to succeed. That's just inevitable. It's regression to the mean. If you have a big success, it's likely to be followed by a failure. Most of the people that start the Tour de France are going to finish off the podium. Same with any sport, and the same in any workplace as well. You're never going to crush it every day. And so having a much more philosophical attitude towards failure, realizing that sometimes you're going to have a bad day. It's the way it is. Learning from that failure, the growth mindset, but making sure also you have time to recognize that that's just part of being human. So there's a self-compassion element to this as well, right? It's not just about focusing on how we can improve, but it's also recognizing that humans fail and we're imperfect. So failure is a data point. Be compassionate with yourself and make sure you learn from it.
If you're uncomfortable failing, I would suggest try stand-up comedy. See how that goes.
Literally.
Just really face it head on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exposure therapy, isn't it?
All right. If you're not a perfectionist, what are some quick tips for working well with someone who is a perfectionist?
Okay. So be compassionate. This is also, as I mentioned, a generational thing. So a lot of people entering the workforce are going to be perfectionistic. That's just the way it is. That's the future of work. Get ready for it. It's coming. It's in our data. They have much more concern over mistakes. They're much more indecisive. They worry about other people's opinions. This is the landscape, right? So be ready for this. There are a few things I would say. First of all, be compassionate with them. Make sure that they know that this is a safe space, right? Almost from day one, you can make mistakes. It's fine. That's part of the learning process. You're not coming into this organization as a complete employee who knows all about the ins and outs of the job. You're going to take a long time to learn those things. So mistakes are a parcel of the process. Humanize them. Sometimes you can tell stories of your own mistakes, the things that have gone wrong and how you dealt with them as a way of making sure that they recognize that these are very human things and we all share in them. And acknowledging, I think, also that sometimes there's going to be moments where you'll notice that the perfectionism is having an impact on things like productivity or procrastination, and you start to see those behaviors come in, or maybe you see an excessive amount of fishing for reassurance, like I mentioned, through emails or interaction. Those are kind of very telltale signs of perfectionism. Don't enable. That's the first thing to say. Do not enable, because what you do by enabling is you just create a higher baseline, right? The anxiety spikes, the perfectionist seeks a safety behavior, but it doesn't go down to where it started, right? So then they seek the safety behavior again, and the anxiety spikes even further. So your job as somebody managing a perfectionist is not to enable. It's to be supportive, to say, let's say someone fishes for reassurance, or someone wants you to look over their slides. Supportive. Yeah, no, great. These slides I'm sure will be amazing, but I don't have time to look at them at this moment. But I have faith in you, your abilities to do a good job. So I'm sure they're going to be great, right? Send them off, right? So you haven't enabled that behavior, but you've been assertive and you've shown support and trust in their abilities. And again, this is something very simple, but if you do that on a day-to-day basis and over time, that also disarms the perfectionism in the recipient, who knows now that they're not going to get that validation, so they're going to stop seeking it. So those are the things I'd recommend if you're a manager: psychological safety, normalizing mistakes and failure, and being supportive but non-enabling.
That's great advice. Annie, if you're listening, just do that all with me. That will help. Last question for you, Thomas. Where can our listeners find you, hear more about you, read your book? Shout it out now.
Well, my website is thomascurran.co.uk. It's got all of the resources, talks I've done, and information about me. We also have a course that I've developed on perfectionism, which you can click through on that website. And if you're interested in learning more, you can jump on that. I have a book called The Perfection Trap, which is here. It's amazing, according to Gwyneth Paltrow. So she would know. Yeah, pretty much that's me. Connect on LinkedIn, do all those things. It'd be great to hear from you.
The good doctor.
Thanks,
Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on Demoted. Hopefully all the motorheads out there are no longer perfectionists, though I find that hard to believe. They're perfect to us. They're perfect to us. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I am no longer a perfectionist.
Yeah, me either. I'm cured.
I'm cured. I feel satisfied looking in the mirror at my appearance, at my performance, at my working persona, and everything in between. So thank you, Dr. Thomas Curran, TC, as I call you, behind closed doors. I know TC. You hate that. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, that was awesome. It's always great to get an expert in to kind of teach us what's happening. Why is it happening? Oh, there's research behind it. Instead of us just going off the dome.
Yeah.
With just a random thought, a fleeting thought that's completely baseless entering our brain.
We want the motorheads to grow, right?
We do.
Like we want to entertain.
We're certainly not going to grow. We want to water you like a little flower.
Just, yeah. I mean, look at you all. You're just beautiful motorheads out in the world, living your best lives, dominating the corporate world, or not. Some of you out there aren't corporate, baddies. You're just worldly baddies, which is great. I officially love every video I've done instead of hate every single one, which is nice.
I've never failed.
I've never failed. I've just not succeeded as hard as other times.
Obviously, we're joking about being perfectionists, but we are in a lot of ways. And I think the perfectionism externally and onto others of like, I expect my family to be a certain way, my friends to be a certain way, my coworkers. It's like, you can't put that on people.
I know. When he was saying that, I was like,
stressing me out.
I was like, damn, I think I actually do that.
I totally do that.
But I've always told myself, I'm like, no, I'm a coach. I'm Coach P. I just demand excellence. Like I want people to be great. And I get mad when they're not. Just like I hate myself when I'm not.
And you'll show them that you're mad and upset.
Yeah.
They'll know you're mad.
They'll feel it. But when they get that compliment from me, God damn, does it hit so good. Because I don't just willy-nilly give them out there. I'm not throwing them out there. They mean something. When I say it, I mean it.
I'm not just going to say these things. I say everything. So much of what I say, I don't mean.
We both are on opposite ends of the spectrum there. I should probably say more things that I
say so many things. I say so many things just all the time.
Just saying shit.
I say shit all the time.
And that's okay.
Annie always says like, can you stop blowing sunshine up their ass?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I can't. I have to make them feel like the most special person on earth. I have to. Can't stop blowing.
All right. Speaking of perfectionists, here are some ways to make a perfectionist glitch out.
You know what? Just send me whatever you have now.
Hey, I mean, perfect is the enemy of done, right?
This was a great start.
Client won't even notice.
Do you mind telling me just how you got to this number? I'm a bit confused.
Let's just ship it and see what happens.
Close enough. Nobody's perfect.
It's within the margin of error. You're overthinking it.
Don't get caught up with how the presentation looks.
Well, it's mostly right.
That gave me heart palpitations the whole time.
Yeah.
Let's just do a quick what's good of ourselves. Let's get out of perfectionism. What's good? Yeah. I was at a Bachelorette this weekend in Charleston. I know it's super unique. If you've ever heard of going to a Bachelorette in Charleston. Never heard of it.
It's that or Nashville. Never heard of it.
We went out to bars. 90% women on Bachelorette trips. I'm not even kidding. There wasn't a dude in sight.
Yeah.
It was all girls. It felt like a woman's jail where we're all trapped there.
Were you the belle of the ball though? Was everyone just like, oh my God, there she is.
Ah! I mean, definitely. I've definitely gotten to a place where I'm like, if I go to a bar, a very crowded bar, I feel some eyes on me.
Yeah.
And not that I'm anything, but just I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, do the gin shot out of the syringe that the bottle girl is just handing out.
Because there's a secret photo.
There has to be a photo.
Like that one of me at SKO
No.
holding the handle. Like in an SDR's room.
Like, of course, that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. And I can't have that. So that was a blast.
I hit another grand slam this weekend and I'm not even lying. And it was sick. And I don't know what's gotten into me. I think dad strength might be the realest thing that's ever happened. And if I had just had maybe 4 kids by the age of 18, I'd be in the major leagues right now because I'd be so strong. I would be so fucking strong. Why did I wait until now? I've made huge mistakes.
I want mom strength, except I think dads get strength and then moms become haggard.
Look, I cannot comment on that. I cannot speak to it. Becca is a beautiful, glowing angel. She is the least haggard I've ever seen her. She's perfect.
You guys are exhausted. Other than that, we're great. If I was the sole source of food for another being, I can't.
Well, I told you what happened to Fishy last night.
What happened? Tell me.
We had chili for dinner and the things that, she eats get transferred to him. And so, in fact, we had, I mentioned this on another episode, we had a night nurse and salads, actually, like lettuce, mess up babies' tummies. And so like the first time she's like, you had a salad last night. And she's like, what? How did you know that? Well, he was extra fussy. He was kind of moving around, squirming, and that tends to happen when they have things like chili or salads.
Or
She's
salad.
Like, salad. She's like, do you mean the things that are good for me?
What is Becca supposed to eat? A bowl of rice?
I guess so. So last night, Fishy was just lighting it up. His tummy was killing him. He was just, like, the pain, like I'm in pain cry.
Where you're barf crying?
Yeah.
You're barfing out a cry?
And of course, I'm like, can you guys shut the fuck up? I'm trying to sleep,
You're just a growing boy. You gotta go to bed.
I need my sleep. So can you guys please take us to the other room? We obviously didn't say that, but I thought it.
Something that Fishy wouldn't like to eat from me was the hibachi I had on Saturday night at the Bachelorette. We hired a hibachi chef to come to the backyard of the Airbnb. And this man basically was drowning himself in sake the entire time. And so the whole time he'd be like, count down from 20. And then with 2 bottles pouring it into his mouth. And it became so apparent that we're all sitting there just like, hey, Chevy. His name was Chevy.
Of course.
Not sure if it was his birth name. Hey, Chevy, do you want to fire up the grill? Like, I've been watching you drink for 25 minutes.
He's like, first I'm going to juggle knives. I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready.
I actually, so my whole bit, he came around and started giving everyone, the 10, 9, 8 sake in the mouth. And I go, Chevy, I'm going to skip this. And then he starts, harassing me. Right. No, come on, boo her. Boo. I go, Chevy, turn on the grill and get out of here. I don't want any of your sake. I want fried rice.
Please, get to cooking.
I'm starving. I want some yum yum sauce. I started spooning the yum yum sauce. Yeah. I was so pissed at Chevy. It was the last night of the batch. I was like, I'm done. Please get me out of here.
You had it up to here, and Chevy was not helping at all.
And then the maid of honor, Kelly, I'll shout her out. I'm just like trying to get in bed. I have a 6 a.m. flight. I'm done. I'm exhausted.
Absolutely.
I open my eyes. She goes, Natalie. And she's holding a bottle of tequila hovering over me. It was out of my nightmare. I go, Kelly, go to bed. You are scaring me.
So I took a pull and I went to bed.
Yeah. So I took a good night shot. And
that's a good weekend. It's a good for your soul, bad for your body kind of weekend.
Definitely. Can't wait for mine.
I can't wait for yours either. I'll be there.
Yeah, you'll be there in a bikini on the boat.
What's our color theme?
What are we going to do?
Are we all going white?
Should we do bikinis and martinis?
I'm probably going to go with the thong bikini.
You're getting styled. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see your kitten heels walking through Charleston. I'm just excited.
I've been working on these calves for that exact moment.
Okay, let's get into promoted or demoted. This first one, not giving a fuck.
Promoted, demoted, not giving a fuck.
Not giving a fuck.
Promoted.
I give too many fucks.
Yeah, me too.
I wish I could not.
Me too.
I wish I could not.
I'm gonna promote it. I think that's the best. I wish I did.
The people who truly don't give rock.
Like truly.
They're so empowered. Like we went on a boat in the marshy Charleston waters at said Bachelorette.
Were you looking for crocodiles or something?
Yeah, we were just hoping to get eaten.
Yeah.
And this one girl, I won't name her but I freaking love her. Is just floating out into the ether. Has her hat on. It's soaking wet. Is like just doesn't care. Drinking a Corona, like fully submerged, playing dead.
I look at those people with such envy.
Such envy. And I'm like on the boat, like trying to make sure my hair looks good. Like, hey. Okay.
And look at you
Live
out there
a little,
with your
Natalie.
Corona. Yeah.
Live a little.
All right. Promoted, demoted, passive aggressive growling.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I don't know how you passive aggressive growl. It's sort of like aggressive aggressive.
It's so aggressive. Do your best passive aggressive growl. I'll just take it from here.
I think that's what it is, right? It's kind
of like I'm gonna have to demote it.
If the director says, "Give me your best passive aggressive growl," I'm gonna be in trouble.
Do you know who's a perfectionist? And I this is on my YouTube Shorts algorithm, and I don't ever watch YouTube Shorts, and of course, it's only built for men. Do you know the guy Magnus, who's the world's best chess player?
Yeah. I mean, I know of him. Yes.
You're good friends with him. I only see videos of him winning and of him playing chess. I don't know why. I'm a huge fan. Magnus, if you're listening to this, I freaking
We'd love
you.
to have you on the pod. Let us know.
And I just saw for the first time he lost. And the overlay is like Magnus loses to, I'm sorry, to the winner. I don't remember your name.
I saw this clip too, actually.
And he gets up so pissed, flips the chess table.
He smashes the table, right?
Smashes the table, gives
sticks
the most.
His hand out.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's what I picture as a passive aggressive growling, except he was actually, maybe that was aggressive aggressive.
Yeah. It was a very upset growl.
He was really upset. Imagine actually never losing, though. That would be hard.
That would be hard.
Promoted or demoted, door-to-door knife sales. Oh my gosh, this is such a good one. Did you ever have the Cutco guys come to your house?
Yeah, I had friends who were Cutco fellows.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
My mom would have these guys, and I'm a middle schooler. I'm a little I'm self-conscious. I'm nervous. Yeah. And she'd invite in the Cutco guys going door to door. And she would buy all the knives. And she'd be like, Natalie, come here. Say hi to Brandon.
And he's wearing his red Cutco shirt.
He's wearing his red Cutco shirt. He's got a huge knife. I think he's so hot.
He looks like State Farm guy. I'm
obsessed with him. I'm obsessed with Brandon. I've fallen in love. Yeah. And I'm so nervous and I hate myself. I'm like, Mom, please. I don't want to say hi.
You're like, so how sharp do they get?
I had no riz. Are you kidding me? I wish I said that.
You're like, are those knives?
Is that a knife?
No, Natalie, it's a fucking spoon.
Natalie, go back to your room.
Please go upstairs. You're embarrassing me.
Mom's having fun with Brandon. Okay, yeah. Please leave.
I'm going to promote it because that is a true sales savage.
Those guys don't take no for an answer.
They don't. And they get invited to your house. The good ones Brandon's get invited into the house.
Absolutely.
Again, they have weapons. They have knives. They get invited to a house. All right. Last one, promoted, demoted, casino floors at night.
And what are we defining night as? Because for me, the scariest time is
the
5
sun's
to 6
gone
a.m.
down. Not that you would know, but yes, let's just say the sun's gone down at any point. Like outside is pitch black.
When I woke up at 5:30 a.m., I was recently in Vegas for my talk, and I was going to work out at the hotel gym. That, I think, is the scariest. Those are the White Walkers.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the freaks who they have no clue if the sun's up, down, sideways, it exists.
It doesn't matter. The sun doesn't matter.
Do you enjoy pulling a slot machine?
Confession, I've only pulled one slot machine, and that was because Becca and I were walking out of Vegas similarly for another a talk, and she was like, I just want to do one. I was like, fine, here's your $1. We pulled it. It was the most anticlimactic thing. Didn't win. I was like, cool. Was that worth?
The machine just ate your money.
Just ate it. I was like, here's my donation.
Don't understand. Because I think that, of course, I think at the blackjack table, I have a chance of winning and I could walk away big up.
Right.
But those slot machines, I'm like, they're just eating your money.
That's all they do.
And putting up 3 numbers that are fake, that are rigged, right?
Right. And I'm pretty sure I did it. We got 3 in a row of the same thing. I was like, that has to be good. It has to be good. It wasn't. Didn't win anything.
No. They took your $1.
They just took the $1. Yeah. And there's people who are obsessed with that shit. Like you see the old people, like you go to Reno, you want to talk about a dark place. You go to a casino in Reno.
They don't even pull the slots anymore.
No, they're just pressing the button.
Just button pressing.
And I don't know.
Casino floors at night and in the early morning, demoted.
I'm going to demote it. Terrifying.
Too scary.
Utterly terrifying. Let's read a review.
I'll read this one from Janet Patino Cordova. Ross has read it a few times as we were prepping the outline. Loved this episode. Ron and Natalie, your pod gets me excited for the week after Monday beats me up. Thank you for being so funny and helpful. I've applied so many of your tips to my big girl job. At this point, I'm fully invested in listening no matter what. Crying, laughing emoji.
So here's the thing. I love a good inside joke. Inside jokes are funny. I just didn't think that this would be the one that would catch. Like, do I give Ron energy? Truly. Do I give Ron, I think Ron Weasley when I think of Ron.
You are Ron Weasley. I didn't think anyone, if I'm being so honest, apparently Ron's like a viral phenomenon on the Demoted pages. I didn't know anyone listens to the podcast to the time when we read the shout outs. I thought it was just for you and me. Yeah. I actually thought it was a private thing between us.
Yeah.
And the fact that people have read these is such an honor. So thank you, Ron. Thank you, Janet. Nellie will be viral.
Nellie needs to catch on. I would
love to be Nellie. I identify as Nellie.
Ron and Nellie. Yeah, at least Nellie's a cool. Ron, I feel like an old man. I feel like an old boomer. Fucking
no, you're
Ron.
Young Ron. You're young ginger boy.
Young ginger Ron. Fine. All right, I'm going to read a shout out for us. This one is submitted by Victoria Creta, Creta. I don't know. Anyway, shout out to everyone working on Demoted podcast. Oh, this is nice. I'm an employment litigation defense attorney on the management side and love your podcast. Employers can learn a lot from listening to their employees. So for better or worse, I've given y'all a shout out on the legal/HR blogs. Here's the link to 2 HR blogs about Demoted by Victoria. Can't wait to keep listening. That link was put in there by our producer, Talon. You didn't write that, Victoria, but thank you for shouting us out. I think we could use more lawyers here on Demoted for sure. I mean, lawyers have some wild stories and I'm here for it. So tell your people to talk to our people. And
if you listen to some of our early episodes, I think lawyers were rated #1 on the freak scale of the corporate hierarchy.
Or they're like it's like CEOs, police, lawyers, and then salespeople on the psychopath scale.
Got it.
Yeah.
I forget what the scale was.
Yeah.
As always, send us your corporate confessions, dear demoteds, shout outs, call us Ron and Nelly, use the submission form on our website.
Don't overthink hitting that subscribe button. Certainly don't be perfectionist about it.
Don't put your perfectionism onto that subscribe button. Just go ahead and hit that.
Just hit it. Don't even bother thinking about it. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Don't reread it. Just throw it out there, or on Spotify, wherever. YouTube, why not? For the algorithm. That's why we do anything, right? Because Natalie and I are slaves to the algorithm.
With that, tune in next week on Demoted.